Shalom and welcome to my channel, Truth and Biblical Research, or TIBR, where we dig through the original text of Scripture so we can study Yeshua as approved unto Elohim, rightly dividing the word of truth. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share to make sure you get all of my videos. Hit the notification bell for all down in the corner over here, and that would be the black bell, so you can get my future videos. Today we are going to go to the war between the kings, and that is in Genesis 14. Genesis 14 has verse 1, and it came to be in the days of Amraphel, king of Shinar, Arioch, king of Elasar, Kedorlaomer, king of Elam, and Tidal, king of Goyim, that they fought against Bera, king of Sidon, Birsha, king of Amorah, Shinav, king of Admah, Shemaver, king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, that is Zoar. All these joined together in the valley of Siddim, that is the Salt Sea. 12 years they served Kedorlaomer, and in the 13th year they rebelled. And in the 14th year, Kedorlaomer and the sovereigns that were with him came and smote the Rephaim in Ashtaroth Kanaim, and the Zuzim in Cham, and the Amim in Shaveh Kiriataim, and the Horites in their mountain of Seir, as far as El Paran, which is by the wilderness. And they turned back and came to Ein Mishpat, that is in Kadesh, and smote all the country of the Amalekites, and also the Amorites, who dwelt in Chetzitzon Tamar, and the sovereign of Sodom, and the sovereign of Amorah, and the sovereign of Admah, and the sovereign of Zeboim, and the sovereign of Bela, that is Zoar, went out and joined together in the battle in the valley of Siddim against Kedorlaomer, king of Elam, Tidal, king of Goyim, Amraphel, king of Shinar, Arioch, king of Elasar, 4 kings against 5. And the valley of Siddim had many tar pits, and the sovereigns of Sodom and Amorah fled and fell there. And the remainder fled to the mountains, and they took all the goods of Sodom and Amorah and all their food and went away. And they took Lot, or Lot actually, Abram's brother's son, his nephew, who dwelt in Sodom, and his goods, and left. And one who had escaped came and informed Abram the Hebrew, for he dwelt by the terebinth trees of Mamre, the Amorite. the brother of Eshcol and the brother of Aner, and they had a covenant with Abram. And when Abram heard that his brother was taken captive, he armed his 318 trained servants who were born in his own house, and went to pursuit as far as Dan. And he and his servants divided against them by night, and smote them and pursued them as far as Hobah, which is on the left of Damasek. So he brought back all the goods, and also brought back his brother Lot and his goods, as well as the women and the people. And after his return from the defeat of Kedorlaomer and the sovereigns who were with him, the sovereign of Sodom came out to meet him at the valley of Shaveh. That is the King's Valley. And Melchizedek, king of Shalem, brought forth bread and wine. Now he was the priest of the Most High, the Most High Elohim. And he blessed him and said, "Blessed be Abram of the Most High, Elohim, possessor of the heavens and earth, and blessed be Most High Elohim, who has delivered your enemies into your hand." And he gave him 1/10 of everything. And the sovereign of Sodom said to Abram, "Give me the people, and take the goods for yourself." Abram said to the sovereign of Sodom, "I have lifted my hand to Jehovah, the Most High Elohim, the possessor of the heavens and earth, not to make a thread or a sandal strap or whatever is yours, lest you should say, 'I have made Abram rich,' except only what the young men have eaten, and the portion of the men who went with me, Aner, Eshcol, and Mamre. Let them take their portion." Okay, I'm going to stop right there. The incident that most people are familiar with Sodom and Gomorrah, that starts in chapter 19. So this is 5 chapters before where Sodom and Gomorrah is destroyed. Let me show you something that I want to point out. Okay, this is the Hebrew text from Bible Hub. This is your WLC. That is the Westminster Leningrad Codex. As you can see right here, see, here it is. This is the first mention of the king of Sodom and the king of Gomorrah. Both of these kings have an Aleph Tav preceding their name. They're the only kings that have the Aleph Tav preceding their name. Usually when names are first mentioned in Scripture, they would have an Aleph Tav preceding their name, but these names do not. Amraphel, Arioch, Kedar Laomer, Tidal. They don't have an Aleph Tav preceding their name, but these two do. And then these other kings also do not. That's the first contrast that I wanted to mention. And most of these kings up here, their names and the meanings of their realms are actually demonic. I made a list on Sheets, on Google Sheets, on these two factions. Here I have what I call the Axis powers, and then the Allied powers. And then I put their names together to make a story. It actually does make a story. So, starting off with the Axis powers, Amraphel is actually Akkadian, for the kinsman is a healer, and he's the king of Shinar, which means two rivers. Shin and R. Two rivers. So that means what would become Babylonia and later on Mesopotamia. If you look up the name of this king online, a lot of sources have made connections to Hammurabi. And there's sources that say that his name is actually Hammurapi with a P, not a B. I'm gonna type that on here. Actually, most sources have Amirapi. When you take a look at the story of Hammurabi, he is in a lot of ways a Moses figure. He received a set of laws from their deity of justice in the Sumerian mythological stories. And he is not Sumerian himself. He is actually an Amorite, which I found interesting. He is actually an Amorite. So it's just another example of Satan trying to use a story predating Moses in order to discredit Moses. Going on down the list, the next one is Arioch, and Arioch means in Hebrew line-like. The Akkadian name is Eriyaku, meaning servant of the moon god being Aku in the Akkadian language. And the Semitic name being Rim-Sin, meaning the same thing. Sin being the name of the Semitic deity. So both of these mean the same thing, just in different languages. They're cognates of each other. The next one is Kedar Laomer. The Hebrew name is handful of sheaves. The name in Elamite, because he comes from Elam, the name in Elamite is Kedur Lagamar, which means servant of Lagamar, and Lagamar just happens to be the deity of the underworld. The next one is Tidal, and he is the last part of the name, Da'al, comes from the Sumerian root, meaning to fear. So, Gesenius had that the name Tidal means fear or reverence. There's a Hittite in this time frame called Tudalia. There's not much information about that figure as a Hittite. Scripture says that he's king of the Goyim, and most scripture translations have either nations or Gentiles, because Goyim means Gentiles. But other possibilities would be the Gutians, the Guti, or the Gutians inhabitants of Guti which the land of Gutium is due north of the Persian Gulf. I got a map right here. Using this as a guide. This here is Shinar, because it's the land of the two rivers. Here's the Persian Gulf. Here's Elam, and here's Gutium. And this is what later becomes the Dead Sea. In this time frame, the Dead Sea doesn't exist. The Dead Sea is where there's a lot of tar pits, and they have discovered, archaeologists have discovered that there is indication that there are tar pits at the bottom of the Dead Sea. And it's highly likely that the Valley of Siddim wasn't just the Dead Sea, but all of this blue area right here, going from what we know today as the Arava Valley, which this right here is the Arava Valley, and goes all the way up to the coast of the Dead Sea right now. And the Valley of Siddim could have included what today is the Jordan River. And if the Valley of Siddim included all of this blue area, it's possible that the Jordan, what we now know today as the Jordan Valley, wasn't actually a river at that time, but a dry valley that went up to the Sea of Galilee, what the New Testament describes as the Sea of Galilee, or in the late Old Testament as the Sea of Kinneret, which would be the sea of the large Kinnor, the large harp. So that's what we're looking at. We're looking at 4 kings over here who had land here that they controlled, and they went likely up over here, down over here, and Damascus is mentioned. Damascus would be over here somewhere. So it's likely that they came up and over and down this valley right here. Just to give you an idea of where we're looking at. Okay, so the definitions of these realms: Shinar, like I said, is the 2 rivers. Elisar would be El is a chastener. Take you to the Hebrew. Now let's start right here. Ga'el and Sar. Sar, as a separate word, means evil. Evil, sad, and I can see where they got the translation for chastener, because they got that from the word Sar, and this is not the same word that you get Sarah from, or Sar Shalom. That's a different word altogether. Has a different letter right here. It's not a Samic, which this here is a Samic, as you can see. This here is a Samic and a Resh. So, and this is El, so God, and Sar would be evil. Elam is eternity. And it's related to the word Olam. Olam means eternity, as in the Hebrew phrase Olam Va'ed, to be translated as forever and ever. The Olam is actually the word for something that's just past the horizon. So that was seen as eternity. And Melech HaOlam is another phrase. King of, the eternal king. Melech HaOlam, HaOlam being the adjective. Adjective is always after the noun, but in this case, this is the name of the country. Going back to the map, hold on a second. Going back to the map here, this was seen as the known world at the time of this war. Anything outside of this was not known. So Elam, trying to okay. Elam was at the furthest extent of the known world at the time. So they were seen as the frontier of the of the known world. So that's why they used that word for their country. Okay, and next one down the line is Goyim, and I touched on that already. So I am taking this this definition. This one, this definition right here, I'm kind of on the fence on. I found it interesting. That's why I put it on there. I'm not sure if that's an actual credible definition of that. I just found it interesting because I've never seen that presented like that before for Goyim. So putting all of this together for the Axis, you got kinsman is a healer, king of two rivers, servant of the moon deity, king of God is evil, servant of the underworld, king of eternity, and fear, king of nations. So each breaking down each king's name and his realm. The kinsman is a healer, king of two rivers. Yeshua is our kinsman redeemer. I'm not saying that he was a type of Yeshua, but more like a false Messiah. Servant of the moon deity, king of God is evil. The servant of the moon deity in Arabic is Abdullah, from Abd and Allah in Arabic. Putting those two together, you get Abdullah, meaning the same thing. Servant of Allah, or Allah being the moon deity, which was the proto-Islamic God. And then God is evil is a message from Satan, obviously. Servant of the underworld, king of eternity. Servant of the underworld are the fallen angels who became the demons. There is only one king of eternity, who is Yeshua. This is a title that is Yeshua's only. And then fear, king of nations. The king of fear is Satan. There is only one king of nations, who is Yeshua. Another title that Yeshua that is only for Yeshua. So every one of these either is a false Messiah, or embodies the personification of Satan. Now, going on to the Allied powers, this one is not much better, but this is the side that that Abram fought for, not because they were They were godly, but because they had his nephew, and so he fought to keep this side winning. And we got the first king, Etbera, king of Sodom. And okay, we got the Et. This is not a standalone Aleph Tav. Standalone Aleph Tav looks like this right here. There is no hyphen. The hyphen is like this right here and here. That is called a chatuf. It is treated like a like how we would have a compound word. This right here is a triple compound word. Doesn't happen very often in Hebrew, but you do see it fairly recently, fairly often. This right here would be all. This is all, and then Shaddai would be field. So this and this, they're pointing you. Usually, you'll see this when a new character is mentioned in the text, and it's curious why it's not. Why it doesn't show up here. But you do see it here for both of these, because I believe that this text is trying to get you to notice both of these kings, because they will be mentioned. Not the kings themselves, but Sodom and Gomorrah will be mentioned in the next 5 chapters. And they will be the central point in that story. So, going into the names here, this is actually an early Aramaic name, Berah. Let me scroll in. Okay, you got Berah right here. This is what's known as a gluttonization. So you got Bar, which is sun, and Ra, which is evil. This kind of delves a little bit deeper into the text beyond what is written, and it happens again for Birsha, Bar, and Rasha. Rasha means wickedness, but it also can mean going a little bit into the personification of the pictograph. You got the Sheen, which is destructiveness, and on either side of the Sheen is Ra. So Rasha, you can define Rasha to be the destructiveness of evil. And it's interesting how that works out in Hebrew. Okay, so Going back to my sheets. Okay, got et bara. I put pointer because that's the purpose of the Aleph Tav in this particular case. It's a pointer word, getting you to pay attention to these two. I don't think it's getting you to get you to pay attention to the names, but to their realms, because they will be mentioned later on. So, pointer, son of evil, which I said earlier was early Aramaic. It's not Ben Ra, which would be the Hebrew form of Bera or Bar Ra, or Ben Rasha, the Hebrew form of Bir Shah or Bar Rasha. How the names were formed is a gluttonization, so that you're not having to repeat that sound twice back to back. So the two, what would be a double resh, back to back, going back over here, what would be a double resh, because that would have to be repeated. They took bar and ra and combined the two, so it's bara, and they did the same thing over here. It's actually a common occurrence, not just in Aramaic, but also in Hebrew. Hebrew does it, not as much as Aramaic, but you do see it. Sodom, or Sodom in Hebrew, is burning. And Amorah, or Gomorrah, is a heap of ruins. And I'm pretty sure that the meaning of those cities actually did not mean that, but that's what it became to mean after Genesis 19. After the events of Genesis 19 happened, they became to mean burning in Hebrew ruins. But as we're reading it, it's a prophecy of how they became that. So, going on to the next one is Shinav, king of Admah. Shinav, like there's another one with Shinar. Yeah, like Shinar means two rivers. Shinav means double father, or two fathers. It also could mean a father's tooth, because shin is the Hebrew word for tooth. So depending on how you take that, would define that name. And Admah is related to Edom. Let you see it in Hebrew here. Where is it? There it is. There's Edom. That would be Edom in Hebrew. You don't see Edom or Edom mentioned until Genesis 36. But this letter would change to a Sophite, which that would be this right here. It would be at the end because it's a final letter. This letter would be, it would take on the meaning of what comes from. So the ending hey would be what comes from Edom. And this is interesting because this is before Edom is actually formed. Obviously because Abram is right around the age of 75, somewhere in that time frame, 75, 80 years old. And his children are not born yet. So Admah is interesting. An interesting definition. Okay. Take this over. Oh, come on. Come on, work with me. There we go. Okay. Use this as a way to show where things are at. I think most of the most of these cities are actually under the Dead Sea, not in the middle, but they're probably over here because the tar pits are in the lowest part of the Dead Sea, and that is generally right in the middle. However, Sodom and Gomorrah have been found not to be in the Dead Sea, but close to the mouth of the Dead Sea over here. There have been nodules of sulfur balls that were found all in around the area over here. Let me see if I can get the aerial map up. Yeah, it doesn't really show it very well. I believe it was Vendell Jones that found a site that had sulfur balls all throughout what used to be a city, and then there's a pillar off to the side. I think it's over here somewhere. That looks like it would have been at one point the Lot's wife that turned into a pillar of salt. Anyway. Come on. There we go. Okay. Okay, going back to the back to that. All right. Well, let me show you where Edom is. Edom is further south. Edom is down here. So I kind of wonder if Admah was, somewhere along here, maybe on this peninsula. I believe this is called the Peninsula of Lipan. Wonder if Admah is along this area, because it's supposed to be part of the Valley of Siddim. Even if it was down over here, that would still give it part of that vicinity. Okay. All right. Now the next one is Shemaver. Now, this is an archaic word, pinions. What a pinion is the let me show you a picture. Okay, opinions would be this layer of feathers right here. It's the outer layer of feathers of a bird. We don't usually use that term anymore, so most translations have flight or wing. The other definition for opinion would be this wheel of a gear, but in order for it to mean that doesn't make any sense. And I'll tell you why. Okay, so Shem has two meanings, both name and authority, depending on the context. And I'm taking the meaning of authority in this instance. He was the king of Tzivoyim, and Tzivoyim are gazelles. So if he's the authority of a rack and pinion gear system, it doesn't make any sense that he would be the king of gazelles. And I explain that down here. The last king is actually, the name is not mentioned. This king is Belahi Tsawar, and a lot of translations treat this as a city with two names. King of Bela, also known as Tsawar, but that's not what this means. Okay. Bela He Tsawar. He is a word that means she. Okay. Let me get that verse up. That is verse 2. Where's the beginning of the verse? Oh, there it is. Let me get this verse up. And activate lexicon. This is why I'm using this. It breaks down the words. See that this is saying another name of Zoar. Zoar. Trying to get the here we are. Okay, so this is a pronoun, and as you can see right here, I'm not kidding, it doesn't mean that is. He is third person feminine singular. So, clicking on this right here, 1931. The word Brown Driver Briggs saying that who is masculine, so who is he? This is a running joke in Hebrew. One of the first things that you learn in Hebrew is who is he and he is she. So who means he, is masculine, and he is she. He is feminine in Hebrew. So, let me go back. Okay. So, Bela, she is, what's this mean? Tzoar. Tzoar means insignificant. She's unimportant. So the question that would be asked naturally is, so which is being called insignificant? Is it the name of the king, which isn't mentioned, or is it the city-state of Billa? And the answer is, it doesn't matter, because it's insignificant. So the Allied story is, I'm going to be reading up here because it goes off of the page here. Son of evil, king of burning, or burning king. Son of wickedness, king of the heap of ruins. Double father, king of red earth. Authority of pinions, king of gazelles. And the king of destruction, she is an insignificant. All right. Breaking down each king. Son of evil, king of burning. The son of evil is Satan. So like I said, these are not that much better in the definition of the names. Son of evil is Satan. The burning king is a self-fulfilling prophecy of the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. Son of wickedness, like I said before, the way that you can define wickedness is the destruction between evil, the destruction between the evil. And the son that is destructive between evil actions. You can define it either way, because they both mean the same thing. So the son of wickedness, king of submersion. The son of wickedness is Satan. The king of... Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to... It's heap of ruins. Okay. The king of heap of ruins. The son of wickedness, again, is Satan. It's another satanic attribute. The king of heap of ruins is a self-fulfilling prophecy of the outcome of what became of Gomorrah. Double father, king of red earth. A household of two fathers. Is how he grew up, possibly, from the definition of his name. King of red earth locates where Admah is, near Edom, perhaps. Authority of pinions, king of gazelles. Authority of pinions speaks to how he positions his troops. The strong get positioned to the outskirts, like the outside feathers of a bird. So he puts the strong on the outside. And I would take this that this is where his archers would be, and his foot soldiers would be in the front. So the archers would be flying their arrows this way, using this as a model. The strong get positioned to the outskirts of the outside feathers of a bird. The king of gazelles speaks to how swift the city-state strikes. So they strike as fast as a gazelle. That's how I was taking that. And then the last one is this unnamed king of destruction. She is insignificant. So why does this king not have a name? It doesn't matter, because she is insignificant. King of destruction is Satan. Who is this she? Is it the city of Bela or the king? And as I said before, again, she is insignificant, so it doesn't matter. Okay. So that's the names of the kings. And we go back to the map here. All right, so verse 5. So there's some time that that goes on for 12 years. They served Kedor Omer, and on the 13th year they rebelled. So Kedor Omer is the leader of the 4 kings from Mesopotamia. The 14th year, Kedor Omer and the kings that were with him came and smote the Rephaim in Ashtart Karnaim. All right. That is in this section over here. Zuzim and Cham. And the Zuzim are over here. And the Emim in Shaveh Kiryataim. And the Emim are down here. Now, later on, we read about the Rephaim and the Zuzim, the Emim, and that they are all Rephaim. Both the Zuzim and the Emim are Rephaim. They're just called their prospective names based on the children of Ammon, which are later would be over here, and the Moabites, which would later be over here. The Moabites would call them the Emim, and the children of Ammon would call them the Zuzim. Zuzim because they buzz. That's what Zuzim means in Aramaic. It's a buzzing sound. And the Emim because they were, it was based on how they looked. The Emim called them that. The Moabites called them Emim because they were horrifying to look at. And all of these three cities, or I think Ham is actually a district, not really a city. They are all on this side of what's now the Jordan. And then 6 mentions the Horites. Going further down, mentions the Horites over here. In their mountain of Seir, which that is touched on in chapter 36. As far as El Paran, I believe El Paran is down here somewhere. Which is by the wilderness. Then he turned back to Ein Mishpat, which is the fountain of judgment. That is Kadesh. And they smote all the country of the Amalekites and also the Amorites. The Amorites lived over here, as well as in what's now known today as Samaria. But the Rephaim, Zuzim, and Emim are, all intents and purposes, Rephaim. They're post-flood giants. And then the Horites, which I think are also giants, and the Amorites on this side of the Dead Sea, I believe are giants. The Amorites on this side, I believe, are not. They are not described as giants in Scripture, but the Amorites over here are. They kind of hint to that description. And then mentions the kings of the Valley of Siddim again. And it mentions that the Valley of Siddim had many tar pits, which, if we were to drain the Dead Sea, we would be able to see those tar pits today. mentions in the middle of 10 that the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah, they fled. So they fled from, this is where their cities would have been. They likely would have either fought here, because it's mentioning that they had fought in the valley. They fled and they fell there, so they were defeated in what's now the Dead Sea. So and that means that the later mentions of the sovereign of Sodom, the king of Sodom and Gomorrah, and later on mentioning them in the chapter, they are not the same. They are not. It's not Birsha and not Bera and Birsha, because they died in 10. So going to the mention of Lot in 12. Remember, Lot already chose where he wanted to be, and he told Abram that you go one way, I'll go the other way. You choose where you want. And Abram told him to choose where he wants, and Lot chose to go to the Valley of Siddim, which eventually was Sodom and Gomorrah. And mentions the Amorites, which this is why I'm thinking that the Amorites on this side of the Jordan were not giants, because if they were giants, they Elohim would not have had Abraham to pair up with Abram. So the terebinth trees of Mamre, Eshcol, and Aner. They are mentioned as being in what is now known as Bethlehem, and Rachel was, Rachel and Sarah were both buried in the same area, and Sarah was buried next to it says here terebinth tree, but it's similar to an oak tree. So he buried Sarah next to the oak tree of his 3 friends that are mentioned here: Mamre, Eshcol, and Aner. It was the oak tree that they owned, and Rachel's tomb is near to where that oak tree was. So that's the location of that. So he went from slightly north of what's now known as Bethlehem, or the northern sections of Bethlehem, over to Sodom and Gomorrah, and wherever the battle was being fought right here, in order to get Lot from Kedorlaomer's custody. Now Dan, one of the sons of Jacob, he was, how he got that name is because he was named after this location. All right. All right, this is where Tel Dan is located. It's in northern Israel, still in Israel. It's on the northern, it's bordering the northern border of Israel. The northern DMZ line, where Israel is. This hashed line is the DMZ line, the 1949 armistice line. And this right here is the border of Lebanon. And there's two lines right here. There's two lines right here. Oh, I'm sorry. There's two lines right here that indicate the 1967 lines. Oh no, the 1956 line. When when Israel had first gotten the Golan Heights, West Bank, and Gaza Strip in 1956. And then in 1967, this is where they got the Golan Heights a second time. So that's why there's two lines, because there's actually two lines of armistice for the Golan Heights. So Tel Dan is what is mentioned in the end of verse 14. When Abram heard that his brother was taken captive, he armed his 318 trained servants who were born on his own house and went in pursuit as far as Dan. Let me show you how far that is. Okay. Went down here and they went all the way up to Tel Dan. He and his servants divided against them by night and smote them and pursued them as far as Chovah, which is on the left of Damascus. On the left of Damascus, right here. In between Dan and Damascus. Okay. 18 talks about Melchizedek. He was the king of Salem. Jerusalem. Melchizedek means in Hebrew, my king is righteous. And in the New Testament, it is said that Yeshua is the priest of the order of Melchizedek. It's mentioning this encounter of Abraham and Melchizedek. When Abraham had broken bread and shared wine with him, and he went to bless Abraham. And part of the blessing that he gave him was not to take a thread or a sandal strap or whatever is yours, lest you should say, I have made Avram rich. Except only what the young men have eaten, and the portion of men who have who went with me. On their Eshcol and Mamre. So he let them have their portion, and they were Amorites. Amorites are from the seed of Ham. They are not Shemites, but those Amorites were friendly to Abraham, so he let Abraham to give them their portion of land. I just wanted to touch on these 9 kings, because these kings actually have definitions that are very some of them prophetic, some of them are type and shadows of the false Messiah, and other ones are demonic, completely demonic. So, in order to defeat the enemy, you have to know your enemy. All right, that's all that I have for you today in this video. And Shalom, Yerushalayim. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem.